Time has passed since the 2008-2009 UMass Lowell hockey season came to an end. A pretty good season, 2016-2. A season that ended with a 1-0 loss in the Hockey East Championship game. We thought now would be a good time to sit down and look back. A good time for a conversation with Riverhawk head coach Blaise MacDonald. We will present that conversation in 2 parts. So now, a conversation with Riverhawk hockey head coach Blaise MacDonald, part 1. 2008-2009 season, a 20-win season. I think it was 2016-2. We in the media love to analyze things by looking at statistics, looking at the record. How do you analyze the season? Is it about the record?
You break it down into small components like, okay, how was our special teams? How was our goaltending? How was our first period, second period, third period? That type of thing. And then you build it to the bigger picture. How did we do in the first semester, second semester? So I think you look at it in a lot of different ways. But certainly, your last impression is usually your strongest impression. And the fact that, in our last 16 or 17 games, I thought we played phenomenal hockey and really played great in the Boston Garden in 2, pressure-packed, tremendously meaningful games. And the way our team responded to that environment and to those circumstances was wonderful. So, 20 wins is a pretty good benchmark for a team. We had some work to do. At one point, I think we were 9-12-0, 21 games into the season. That's 3 games below 500. That's some work to do. And if you looked at our schedule, like you had brought up many times in your panic-driven forecasting, oh my gosh, look at all the games we got to, and they're all on the road, and we got to pull. Don't worry, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. We had a lot of work to do at the second half, but we knew that. We were still very committed with how we were playing, how we felt about ourselves, most importantly, and how we behaved based on circumstances that were presented to us. That's the true, measurement of a team, because you can see how you're going to respond, and you win some, you lose some. I mean, we played terrible against Merrimack, but we hit one off the stanchion, it goes in, and that was the difference in the game. We end up winning those types of games. So overall, I thought it was a terrific, terrific season that ended, prematurely in our opinion, but, we stepped back and learned what we did well, how we can improve on that, what we didn't do well, how we can improve on that.
As you look back on this season, did we, because our season ended up being a little shorter than we'd hoped, was that the lost opportunity of the first half?
No, I mean, I'm not sure what type of season you hope for, but I thought it was a terrific season where I didn't think we were going to play in the Hockey East Championship game. I mean, it's a lot to ask of a young team to go through the season, whether you played at home or on the road the first, to get to the Hockey East Final Four at the Garden is a very difficult task. And most people will tell you that this year in Hockey East, it was the hardest year ever. It was more parity ever. So the fact that we, won 2 games up at Vermont, beat a really good Northeastern team in the semifinals, our first time beating the Garden with this team, and then tie BU in the finals, I think that's probably where we should have been.
As we look at this hockey club that played for the Hockey East Championship, we look at the way it finished the season, and we look at how it started the season. What was the thing that we learned that we were able to do at the end that we hadn't done earlier?
Well, I think there was a few things. I think early in the season we had some of our defensemen were taking really long shifts, and even some of our forwards. So I thought our shift lengths were bad. We were losing, not being able to sustain the type of pressure and leads in the third period or have the energy to come back in a game. So we identified that. Later on, we started charting a lot of different components to our game and would post it up after every game. And so that kind of was a GPS system for us, what we wanted to get accomplished. 2 of the bigger things were hits and flybys. Obviously playing through would be a hit, turning the puck over, but having an opportunity to hit somebody and just kind of skating by them would be a flyby. So we identified that. I thought that really helped our game. And lastly, I think the biggest change in our team in the second half, other than the normal maturation process of understanding style of play and your responsibility, I really thought in the first half of the season, Jeremy Daner and Barry Goers in particular weren't playing up to their potential. They're wonderfully talented players, really, really good. But I thought they were both inconsistent, Barry in particular, and not nearly playing to the level that they had played in the past. And then in the second half of the season, Jeremy Daner really picked it up for the whole second half, and I thought the next to third weekend of the season, we went up to Vermont, and Barry Goers was the best defenseman we had that weekend. And from that point forward, through the playoffs, he played really well. So those two guys played, I think that helped all of our defensemen really elevate their game. And all of a sudden we became a very difficult team to forecheck, a very difficult team to play against in our zone. And we transitioned the puck through the middle of the ring very, very well. And I think really because those two players elevated their game.
Was there a particular turning point? Was it the victory at Maine? Was it the overtime win at BC? Was it the stanchion redirection? Was there a point that you can say, here, at this point in the season, we as a team took a step that we never stepped back from?
I think the BC victory was big. We had just come off a tough loss to Providence, 4-2 with an empty netter, 3-2 loss, and that was our 6th in a row. And then we go play the defending national champs on Nesson. Big game, give up a lead, and we had a hard time coming from behind. So they've got a lead. We pull the goalie, score, and then win it in overtime. I thought that was big for our team, although we came back and lost to UMass the next game. So I thought it was good that we could draw on that experience. That was very, very big. There's a lot of elements to that game that were very, very important to us, and I think that was probably the turning point. And then our victory at UMass Amherst, I thought, was a huge turning point as well.
In the second half, one of the things that jumped out to me was the role of the seniors. Not necessarily getting points, although they got some big ones. But it seemed as though they seemed to almost psychologically drive this team.
They did, and I look right to Mark Robotham. He was out during that stretch where we lost a lot of games, came back for the Providence game and the BC, and from that point forward. And he played really well. He played hard. He gave us a verbal element on the bench in the locker room that we really needed. And I thought Mike Patako and Nick Monroe played just great the entire year. But Patako lost Robo on his line, and that had a little bit of effect on him. So all three seniors played really, really well down the stretch. And when Mark got hurt and was out of the lineup, it was a pretty significant void for us in whole. Then you look at Matt Ferrara was also out of the lineup for a number of those games. So, those two UNH games in particular, we don't have Robo or Matt. Those are two of our grittier, stronger players that really make things happen and are really tough to play against. We don't have them for those two UNH games, and we just couldn't compensate for that.
I think in a lot of ways when we talk about the resilience and the belief and the trust and all of that and being tough to play against, it seems that all of this somehow comes back to being mentally tough and just, if you will, refusing to lose, I guess is the phrase.
I think you're right, and you have to have tangible experiences there, and that's when I talked about being able to handle the environments and circumstances that come your way, be unfazed by them, and just be able to move on and stay your course. And I think we developed that resolve, from that BC game, and we were able to use a lot of points of references that we've done this before, we can do this. That allows a team to be mentally tough. You can talk about it, and you can, read about it, but until you really have some tangible experiences, it's tough to really draw on those things that can get you over the top. And the fact that we were able to have a lot of those, you could see the demeanor of our team as the year went on, and those are bigger games for sure. We were very poised, very calculated in how we played, very unfazed by if we were down a goal or up a goal. And that's a sign of a mentally tough team for certain.
Well, we talked about the senior leadership, and in a moment I want to talk about the freshmen. Some of the underclassmen really elevated their game, and some either made breakthroughs this year or seemed to be on the verge of taking their game to an entirely new level. The team's leading scorer, Scott Campbell's only a sophomore. Maury Edwards, first-team Hockey East all-star defenseman, is a sophomore. I thought Nick Schaus, who hasn't gotten regionally the credit he deserves, had a phenomenal year. He is a junior, stepped up his game dramatically as well.
They did, and you look at Benny Holmstrom, who's, one of our leaders, the captain, is a junior. You look at the guys that put up those numbers and got some recognition. All-tournament team, you have two sophomores from our team. So we have some really good young talent here for sure, and David Valerani we think is very, very good. Mike Shue is somebody who came in and was banged up there, in the, only played 10 games and played a number of them hurt, but scored four goals and some big goals. So we really think we have some great quality depth in our freshman and sophomore class for certain. In this junior class, it'll be seniors next year. It's a big class, but we have great leadership in that class. We have talent. We have grit. So there's a lot of key elements there. And then, you look at the goaltending with Nevin and Carter coming back. That's a pretty darn good 1-2 punch. And I think, they finished the year very strong, and all the defense coming back. Nick Schaus played phenomenal, as you had mentioned. So, there's a lot to like.
That is part one of our conversation with UMass Lowell hockey head coach Blaise MacDonald.